So, I wanted to drop in and talk a little bit about this last year being a chess coach and what that's taught me, both about myself and the people who are trying to improve at chess or could be anything else. Now, the first thing any chess coach will tell you is they went from a place in their life where they were looking for students to where they just can't take any more students. Suddenly, it's just a flood. But that's not the interesting part to me. The thing that's interesting is the urgency that a lot of people are addressing me with. They need me to coach them right now. There's a tone in it that I hadn't heard before. And what I see happening is millions of men around the world, and the number, when you think about it, is just astounding. Millions of men suddenly going through something that I realize I had thought of only as my own private experience. And that is the times in which I went deepest into the game of chess, when I really retreated into the game, were times in which I had lost my place in the world. And I see loads of men around the world feeling the same way, just because they got rocked out of their little comfortable situation in the last year. So it was those times that I was pushed out of my place in the world that I went into the game. There's especially times when I felt like the world had treated me unfairly. Those were the times that I really went deep into the game, and those were the times, interestingly enough, and I've only realized this in the last couple of days, and one of the reasons I want to talk about it, that those were the times I actually experienced true improvement in the game. You know, I've been studying the game for 40 years plus or something, but it's only in certain moments that I've actually had an improvement, and I think that's the same for other people as well. So what I see is like the motley characters of Moby Dick when they're getting on the Pequod. It's men of different races, nationalities, ages, religions. But they have one thing in common: they've lost their place, and so they're going into this ship which has a structure and a hierarchy and some rules and maybe certain measures of success, though no one on the Pequod gets paid well. And that's the experience that I think many of us have before we enter some cave where we try to renew ourselves or rethink ourselves. And in a lot of ways, it's a beautiful space, even if it's a dangerous one, that we should honor and kind of respect as the foundries where we discover ourselves. Now, you could say to me, well, Kraai, why not women? And I don't want to say that women can't have that experience. But what I do want to just say from my own life experience is that the times in which I have told women in my life that I want to do something like chess. One time I wrote a book, for example, very similar experience, a retreat into myself in a new world of learning. It feels like this cave experience, like some Zarathustra going into the cave stuff, you know, and it's hard to express. You say things like, oh, I got to go get clean, or I got to go get pure, or I got to go get hard, all these words, you know, and women never understood what it was I was saying, and for the most part mocked me for my little endeavor. And the other thing I want to say about it that feels a little bit gendered is men, when they lose their place in the world, it's generally a little bit more spectacular than women. And their reaction to that loss of place is either to completely fall apart or find some kind of world that has rules and some kind of measures of success, like chess. And sometimes they have to fall apart completely before they find that other world. So what I'd like to do is to share a simple image of what it might look and feel like to lose your place in the world. Imagine you're at one of our modern convenience gyms because your body knows it needs to lift heavy shit. You know, it just knows. And you start adding weight to your deadlift. And because that's a measure of improvement, something you can be like, okay, this is virtue and this is a system, and I know what improvement means here. Dude, they're gonna throw you out, man, because you're gonna start grunting and the weights are gonna crash down on the floor. Gyms don't like that anymore. They're gonna push you out. You're gonna get the lunk alarm, man. So that's just an image, I think. You know, there's a variety of ways of losing place in the world, but that's just a simple and kind of funny one that I think captures what loss of place kind of can be like for anybody. Now, some of you might say, no, Kraai, no, look, I didn't come to chess because of some virtue or whatever thing you're talking about, or even improvement. I came for the beauty. Chess is just this beautiful game. Well, let me show you this position. This is from a game my student Jamil played. He's on a quest to reach 1600, and I can tell you as a student, as a coach, and as a player that reaching 1600 is just as hard as reaching 2700. You will reach a spot that will feel just sticky, and you don't understand why the people above you are above you, but you just try and you're knocking your head, and it is simply not easy. So anyways, here's Jamil, and he's dealing with this situation. And, you know, Queen D4, man. Queen D4. Bishop F2 is coming. There's nothing you can do about it. One of the most beautiful mates I've ever seen. And Jamil doesn't see it, and we've all been there. We've all been there. And so there's this interesting thing about chess where, yes, it's beautiful. And yes, the beholding and appreciation of that beauty is part of the game. But being a student of the game really means trying to control or hold on to that beauty, to guide it and create it. Is just a key difference about what it means to be a chess player. And I think that if you're in it, you're confusing yourself by saying, you're denying yourself the challenge when you say it's simply about beauty. So you could say, yo, Kraai, dude, how's all this mindfulness training going to help my chess? Well, first I want to confess that I am the Aristotelian loser who thinks that self-knowledge is in a way the highest reward. But let's think about it and use it as a way to understand what your chess is. And I think what it says when you have that knowledge is that your chess is ultimately about virtue. And once you understand that, then it's a little bit easier to start training yourself. Because right away, what it tells you is that you can get rid of all of the empty carbs. All of the empty carbs got to go immediately. That's just making you weaker. That's a way for you to stop being on the quest because the quest was too hard. And we're going to talk about the hardness in a second. But let's talk about empty carbs. Bullet. The chatty Twitch streams, the Twitter drama. All that stuff is a way to distract you from this quest, which is difficult. Now let's think about this for a second. When humans evolved, this is an amazing fact to me, we ended up needing 20% more calories for our minds to evolve into humans. And one of the reasons we have a higher body fat percentage, we need that extra caloric stuff for our mind. Our mind costs that. It's an evolutionary damage for us that we have to carry this thing around that requires so much energy. And one of the reasons we don't want to carry the heavy weight with our minds is that it's exhausting. It's simply exhausting when you turn on the level 2 thinking. Could be as simple as saying to yourself, make yourself do some weird math problem, 32 times 73, doesn't matter. You're gonna have to stop and you're gonna have to think. And it's not going to be the easy answers and the easy, opinions that we go about our life with. And those are the heavy lifting operations in chess that we have to do over and over again and prepare ourselves to not only get good at that, but to sustain that energy throughout a game. And I think one of the things that I've seen with my students and myself is clearly the hardest thing to do is to study your own games. And the reason is that you have to look at your own mistakes. And the caloric burn there is just so intense and it hurts so much that that's when you can retreat into all these other easier forms of what you think of as improvement, right? But it's actually not. And that's where the virtue gets truly more interesting than just, say, raising your weight in the deadlift, because it goes beyond simply understanding chess, but understanding how your mind interacts with the game. And that's one of the reasons I felt obliged to do this video, because I realized myself, holy, I understood something about how my own relationship to the game surfaced in this last year, seen in the mirror of millions of other men having a similar problem. And it's funny when you think about the mistakes that you find in your own analysis of your game. And in the other world, in the quote unquote real world, people don't really make mistakes, right? No one admits to it anyway. And one of the reasons is because no one's really engaging on a level where you have that depth, where you're in the level of easy opinions on Twitter and whatever. No one's ever wrong. No one's ever wrong. It doesn't matter if someone was right either. It doesn't matter. So the next thing I want to say is understanding that virtue is ultimately important. I think it's important to give yourself a measure. In the same way some guy at the gym might want some number for his deadlift, you should have a metric. And it doesn't matter if it's 1,600. And you shouldn't push, like I get so many students coming to me that are rated 1,700 and they want to be FM by next year. No, be realistic. You can still, it doesn't mean I want to shatter your dreams, but you need to have some number that's a little bit more proximate to where you are. And that will give you the scaffolding, the structure to pursue that goal. Because then if you talk to a coach or a friend, they can help you design a program to be like, okay, this is what you actually need to get to this next goal. And that's the beauty of chess improvement, because it creates a structure for your life that's honestly a little bit more interesting than joining the Pequod, going on a whaling expedition. It's a very interesting and beautiful journey. So just a couple quick thoughts about this last year and what it's taught me about self-improvement and the cave that we all have the honor to retreat to a couple times in our life. Bye-bye.